Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about whether or not Amazon is quote unquote dead for 2026. There's a lot of rumble on the internet regarding whether or not it's a sustainable or avoidable marketplace, whether or not you should be participating, focusing on a pull out, avoid it. If you're a new business startup looking to sell on Amazon, is it even worth your time? And the dead narrative that's circulating around the internet and social media is, I believe, a ruse. So it's not applicable. I will say, as somebody who has 17 years experience in this specific space, so I've been selling Amazon since 2007. However, I started an agency.com reps in 2009. So it's been quite a while, nearly 20 years between retail and 3P on Amazon. So I've seen all the different waves, right? The development and the maturity of the platform pre-brand registry, pre-PPC, and really, to be honest, pre-social media influence, that aspect of, driving sales and through external sites back into Amazon, really didn't come into play until a few years ago. Really, people started experimenting with it like, maybe 10 years ago or something along those lines, when it was early adoption. So it is true that the website is extremely saturated and there are rising costs and there's rising regulatory pressures, from the compliance side. And the fees for FBA obviously are part of that cost increase. One thing that I could say definitively is the commoditization of Amazon. And the unfortunate part is, from a social side, I'm talking about social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. There are influencers who are still peddling and pushing this Alibaba buy ABC item off the shelf and slap your brand name on it and look how much money you can make. And I've sold, thousands of these a week. And yeah, that is all false baiting information. And you're honestly not going to be successful anywhere there is opportunity with low barriers to entry. I'll give you some examples. So let's say flatware, right? Forks, knives, things like that made of bamboo. Very easy to source, find. They all, for the most part, look the same. The pricing structure is going to be the same. It's going to have nuances based on volume, but generally not something that the brand name is embossed to. So for one, brand registry is not going to like that because the brand name is not affixed to the product in their packaging. So they may not approve you. But second, super saturation. And unless you are already one of the pre-existing sellers who potentially did nefarious things to get themselves to the top, and I'm not going to comment too much on that, but think of review manipulation, you likely will have a hard time dethroning one of those sellers at this point in time. For one, your margins are going to be really skinny. You'll have to compete on selling price with everybody else who's seen a gradual race to the bottom. And likely you're going to see really high CPCs because everybody's desperate and competing to bid on placement for the same product. You'll see that across many different categories. And think staple items that are in your house. Forks, knives, straws, cups, plates, basic tools, paper, things that are very commonplace. Cups, mugs with logos and insignia, whatever on them. No differentiations, all the same item, can't reinvent the wheel. Avoid that at all costs. From that perspective, FBA is dead, right? But that was never really a viable business to begin with. The brands that succeed at this is time and time again, whether you're launching in 2026 or you launched in 2016 or you launched in 2010. If you have differentiation, you have some sort of IP, your pricing is acceptable, and you're making a quality product, you are not going to have a problem selling that item on Amazon. Now, there are nuances to that. Obviously, if it's something that's really heavy or the metrics don't make sense, right? So low price point relative to weight or size, you could see really high FBA fees that offset whatever your strong margins may be. And we've seen that for some items that, let's say, are under $15. They cost a couple of dollars to make, but the dimensions are wrong. So you need to take that into consideration. And something to consider in the evolution of Amazon is the fact that you need to differentiate. And not only from a product assortment standpoint, but you should also be looking more of like an omnichannel and maybe not put all your eggs in the Amazon basket and expand into, your Walmart.com, your TikTok shop, D2C, right? And I think that the successful operators right now are very data driven. So you're not just looking at dollars and cents, but you're tracking click-through rate and conversions and really honing in on metrics and KPIs to fine tune. The benefit of this, right? There's pros and cons to everything in the evolution, is that fact that AI has removed so much of the guesswork. So there was a lot of good third-party tools, and if you want to really simplify your life, I still rely very heavily on, a paid ChatGPT account, which I think is excellent. Gemini, also free tool, excellent. So, you can plug metrics into it and ask it questions and inferences, and really will eliminate a lot of the confusion and simplify things for you so that you can take action based on digestible information. So the operators that are really successful going into 2026 are utilizing the tools. They're, differentiating. They've shifted their strategy maybe at retail, and they're relying on more AI for assistance in selling and analyzing your data. And that is not just raw brand level data, but also PPC data and connecting the dots, right? The synergy is what you're looking for. So those are all things that you need to take into consideration as the business has matured and evolved. So again, my personal opinion is that it's very alive and well. You do have to, in addition to everything we've talked about, you do have to contend with consumers' appetite for price and the current climate we're in with the consumer sentiment and potentially some of the household spend. You may lump that under inflation fatigue, but when analyzing your pricing strategies, you have to make sure that it's going to make sense. And potentially, here's something that's important. Can you survive on less volume? So you're selling something high profitable. It may be slightly more in the premium end of things, but you're going to sell fewer units. And are you okay with that? So the days of this expecting a new product to fly off the shelf that doesn't really create a huge buzz, I think that's changed, and people need to be realistic. Now, you can still be extremely successful, right? We have new brands that enter the agency all the time that are brand new to the site, and maybe they are part of a normally boring catalog and or supply chain, and they can be brought to life on Amazon. And with exciting content, you really can captivate people. And believe me, the traffic's there. People are looking for this product and or something that solves a problem. So if you can solve a problem or prevent a problem or offer convenience or safety, that product is in demand. The customer is looking for it, and they will pay a premium for it if it is different fundamentally from the other options out there that may not check enough boxes, all the boxes, the primary boxes, and what have you. So whereas price is important, it's not the only thing people are considering. And I think if you take into mind the fear sentiment aspect of things, the uncertainty that the consumer has, you can work with that. And you can honestly work with anything as long as you're using that in your analysis. It does require outside of the box thinking. You do need critical thinking to be successful on Amazon. It is not well, I did my best, I threw it up there and it's not working. You can't take that attitude going into Amazon. You have to be flexible. I do think the FBM business is a little bit of a trap, and I would focus on FBA, honestly, my personal opinion. This way you can scale and free up time and focus on driving awareness and through social and work on other channels. If you're trying to be a sole operator and fulfill orders and run the business, and that's going to be really difficult for you. And most people, I think, are, especially the ones that are starting a business, they're moonlighting. They're likely doing something else, and this is a pet project until it grows. It does need a lot of your attention. Again, we specialize in this, so if you have an idea, you have a brand, you have a business, what have you, or you just need consulting on where to start, where to go, or growth strategies, .com Reps, the agency that I founded, specializes in this, so we definitely can help with any inquiries or questions. But hopefully this video was helpful for some of you at least, and you follow the channel and look out for more insightful videos. Thank you.